On January 21st, 2013, 15-year-old Hadiya Pendleton marched in President Obama's inaugural parade. 8 days later, Hadiya was shot and killed on the south side of Chicago, not far from the Obama family home. First Lady Michelle Obama spoke at her funeral. Yesterday should have been Hadiya's high school graduation day. Instead, her classmates presented her family with a class ring and left one seat empty in her honor. And once again, the First Lady addressed Hadiya's family, friends, and classmates at King Prep H.S. Here is part of what she said.
So too often, we hear a skewed story about our communities. A narrative that says that a stable, hardworking family in a neighborhood like Woodlawn or Chatham or Bronzeville is somehow remarkable. That a young person who graduates from high school and goes to college is a beat the odds kind of hero. Look, I can't tell you how many times people have met my mother and asked her, well, how on earth did you ever raise kids like Michelle and Craig in a place like South Shore? And my mom looks at these folks like they're crazy. And she says, Michelle and Craig are nothing special. There are millions of Craigs and Michelles out there. And I did the same thing that all those other parents did. She says, I loved them, I believed in them, and I didn't take any nonsense from them. And I'm here tonight because I want people across this country to know that story. The real story of the South Side. Maybe you've been tested a lot more and a lot earlier in life than many other young people. Maybe you have more scars than they do. Maybe you have days when you feel more tired than someone your age should ever really feel. But graduates, tonight, I want you to understand that every scar that you have is a reminder not just that you got hurt, but that you survived. If Hadiya's friends and family could survive the heartbreak and pain, if they could found organizations to honor her unfulfilled dreams, if they could inspire folks across this country to wear orange in protest to gun violence, then I know you all can live your life with the same determination and joy that Hadiya lived her life. I know you all can dig deep and keep on fighting to fulfill your own dreams.
Joy Reid is back with us, and now joining us, Mark Thompson, host of Make It Plain on Sirius XM Radio. Joy, such an extraordinary speech. We've come to expect this from Michelle Obama. She says things no one else does in ways no one else can. Boy, every parent in America, just put up that index card with Michelle Obama's mother's advice on it. I loved them, I believed in them, and I didn't take any nonsense from them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Lawrence. And it's interesting, I was thinking in listening back to the speech earlier today that, if Trayvon Martin in a lot of ways sort of fundamentally, emotionally shaped Barack Obama in that White House in a lot of ways, and I think he really did. I think Hadiya Pendleton did the same for Michelle Obama. I've heard her speak about Hadiya before, and you really can see that she saw herself and the potential that Hadiya had. She saw really Hadiya as almost herself, because they were raised in such similar circumstances. The determination of Hadiya's parents, who kept her so busy, with the marching band and all of the things that she was involved in, just to keep her constantly occupied, and raising her in a lot of the same ways that Marion Robinson raised and taught her children. And so she's really very emotional about that. She, as you said, attended the funeral. And there's something about the way Michelle Obama is able to speak and communicate that really makes you feel like you know her and she knows you, that she comes from your neighborhood, that she could have lived around the corner. And I think that quality really does make her a very unique and significant First Lady.
Well, she really does come from their neighborhood. Let's hear a little bit more of what she had to say and why she's not surprised that every graduate, all 177 of this class, has been accepted in college.
There is one thing that I'm not feeling right now, and that is surprised. I am not at all surprised by how accomplished you all are. I am not at all surprised by the dedication your teachers have shown or by the sacrifices your families have made to carry you to this day. I'm not surprised because I know this community.
Mark Thompson, not surprised.
No, and you're right, she does come from that community. And this is the power of Michelle Obama and the president. First of all, First Lady's 3 for 3. Tuskegee, Oberlin, Martin Luther King College Prep. She's given some very inspirational and aspirational speeches charging these young people in terms of what their responsibilities are. And so it's meaningful for these young people to be endorsed by this First Lady, her saying that she's not surprised. And for her also to speak to their role in the future in terms of rewriting the history of our own community, which she said later in the speech is a burden that she and the president share every day. They can either, everything they do or say can either confirm the myths about African Americans or refute them. And it's timely considering what many of these young people are facing, whether it's violence in their own community, even violence at the hands of the police. She's speaking about their dignity, their humanity. She is a part of it. And it's important for the first African-American First Lady to speak about dignity and humanity as an African-American woman after we have just seen these videos of this young lady in McKinney and her humanity and dignity being attacked by this police officer. This is a very, very meaningful moment.
Yeah. It's, let's listen to what she had to say to these young people about friends of theirs who might not be doing as well as they are right now. Let's listen to that.
There are so many young people who can only dream of the opportunities you've had at King College Prep. Young people in troubled parts of the world who never set foot in a classroom. Young people in this community who don't have anyone to support them. Young people like Hadiya, who were taken from us too soon and can never become who they were meant to be. You need to stay hungry for them.
Joy Reid, your reaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, that part of it, and you can just hear the emotion in her voice. And I think that both the Obamas have this real sense I wouldn't call it burden, but responsibility to try to speak to the futures and the possibilities of young children of color, of young people of color. I think they feel that really deeply, and that is a part of this process of being the first family. And Michelle Obama has said as much, that it is significant that they are the first black family to live in that White House. And I think they want to impart some of kind of what they've been able to take from it and some of that sense of responsibility and pass that on in hopes that that next generation will do the same and pass it along, you know, to the next after that.
That'll have to be the last word on this tonight. Mark Thompson, such a good point about the timing importance of this speech in the same week that we saw that 15-year-old girl abused on the street like that, and the whole world saw that. Joy Reid and Mark Thompson, thank you both for joining me tonight.